Welcome to Theory of Conspiracy. Don't adjust your headset, you are listening to three northern lads from the UK talking about their own beliefs whilst challenging each other's.
Hi TheoCons, welcome to episode 8. Just a warning, there are parts of this podcast where Carlos starts speaking and just doesn't stop. It's like he's downloaded his brain in audio format for future posterity. We've posted a link to the lobster mushroom video mentioned by Nick and also an article on Philip K. Dick mentioned by me on our Facebook and Twitter pages. The next time we record is going to be on Wednesday the 20th of May. As of yet, we've not picked a topic, but we're throwing around a few ideas. If you'd like to suggest a topic, please get in touch on social media. Also, if you'd like to submit a question, a comment, or a criticism, there's details on our Facebook page on how to submit an audio submission. As usual, our social media is at TheoConPod. That's at TheoConPod. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And please continue to give us likes, thumbs up, and subscribe on whichever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Okay, let's get on with the main part of the show. Enjoy. Hi TheoCons, welcome to episode 8. We're going to be talking about psychedelics. Before I do, I just want to mention we've had a review from IGR 1408 on iTunes. They've given us 5 stars and they've said, good to listen to, bet their conversations whilst having a few pints are brilliant. Well, I'm not sure we've all had a few pints together, apart from that one time.
We had a few pints when we went down to London.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Yes, a few pints in the Hilton.
Yeah, apart from pre-David Icke, I was about to say. But that was just a one-timer, and I think we stayed pretty sober. We didn't have an hangover for that bloody 9-hour lecture the following day, did we?
No, completely. That's probably the longest lecture ever. I think we left with 2 hours to go as well.
Yeah, man, we missed the old sing song at the end. So I think after post-lockdown, I think we need to get wasted and probably record it. See what happens.
And let the system flow. See what agendas comes up. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I bet you everyone the last, say, 6 to 8 weeks has gone from one extreme to another and back and forth. I think I've spoken to a lot of people via social media or over the phone, and some people have gone from being 1 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. I mean, talking angry, upset, misled. It's just everybody's changing with the mood of what's going on at the moment. So it's a difficult time to live at the moment. But the only thing we can do, the most important thing is that we're all healthy and safe. That's the most important thing.
All right then, Carlos, psychedelics, take it away, man.
Yeah, psychedelics is an interesting subject. It's something where you can go back to our ancient forefathers, from the biblical scholars to the Vikings and a lot of the people who lived in ancient Samaria. They used to talk about talking through their oracles and through their shamans, and they used to go to like a higher state of consciousness. And how they achieve this is by hallucinogenics through acacia or things like mushrooms. And it's one of them interesting subjects where a lot of the old textbooks, which has influenced our lives, may have been influenced by psychedelic drugs. I'll give you an example. One of the ones that's quite interesting is Moses. Moses went up the Mount Sinai to get the 10 Commandments, and he was talking to a burning bush. The burning bush was an acacia bush. An acacia bush is laced in DMT. So could he have an hallucinogenic experience and he thought he was talking to God? So that's just one story. There's many stories. Noah, when Noah built the ark, he used the acacia tree, same again, laced in DMT. So our history books are maybe have been influenced by drugs.
He used the acacia tree for what?
To build the ark.
Did he? Oh, well.
Yes.
There you go.
There's So obviously, Nick, you're like me. You're a man of your history, and you've probably read up on this because me and you have had many conversations about this. So what's your thoughts and things like that?
Well, it's been suppressed now for the last 40 years, 50 years of suppression now. Yeah, probably since early 70s, late 60s. So yeah, exactly 50 years of suppression. So yeah, before that, and invariably the Aztecs and all the rest of it, and all these other natives that are supposedly got history with these psychotic substances, peyote and things like that for the Indians, and various substances like that across the world. So yeah, it's bound to have had an influence, and yeah, it's pretty well documented that people have referred to shamans and things for advice and stuff. So without a shadow of a doubt, but over the last 50 years, it's had only an influence really in subculture. It's not really the
Like rock music
mainstream.
and
It's
stuff like
been
that.
just groups of society that are interested in that kind of thing. Subcultures. Whichever hippies obviously are an obvious choice for psychedelics and stuff like that. But I'm sure everybody, every genre, every teenager probably has had a go at them at some point, mostly. Apart from your good self, Andy. You see, you've dodged that. I would say dodge that bullet, but it's unfair. It's not a bullet. You've dodged it all the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Why definitely? See, you bought into the suppressed mainstream narrative that there's something to be scared of. Is that why you say it like that?
No, not at all.
Well, what do you mean? Definitely.
I, I just, um, I definitely mean I've definitely dodged a bullet. As in, I've never dabbled with anything mind altering.
Apart from
I
alcohol.
apart from that, but I wouldn't say. I mean,
If you have enough of it,
it,
it's totally mild altering. You lose
it,
yourself, don't you?
yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You can get absolutely paralytic, not remember things, and I have been, 2 or 3 times maybe I've been drunk enough where I wouldn't say you were tripping and making stuff up, but you're not completely in control of your faculties. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well,
You can
how come
go,
you've never been tempted to try them? Have you just never been exposed to them?
um, partly that. Although I worked in a nightclub for about 6 years, so if I wanted to, I could have just gone and got whatever. I mean, we used to just find pills and everything on the floor at the end of the night. It was crazy. But I just never wanted to, never felt the urge to go, oh, I'll stick that in my gob and see what happens. I don't know. I don't. I mean, you could say it was a self-control thing, but I personally don't think it's a self-control. I'm not worried about losing control of anything. Like I say, I've been, paralytic enough times, um, to for that to be not a thing. Um, I don't know. I just
So it's fear then, and it sounds like fear. You're writing off as not, but the fact that you are all right with mainstream sanctioned, okay, get out of your fucking tits, I don't know, lose control, kill people driving every day, kill people wife bitch slapping every day, kill people, in a rage every day, alcohol, all good. No fear, I'll go straight into that tunnel. Give me that liter bottle of vodka and stick a fucking straw in it. That's no problem. Everybody says that's fine. But this mushroom over here, I'm going to worry about that because they tell me that there's something wrong with that.
well, right. So I wouldn't describe it as fear. I would
Well,
just
you probably maybe not aware of it as fear.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't get a liter bottle of vodka and stick a straw in it for a start.
We've all
When
done
I've
that
got
when we're teenagers.
when I've got drunk, it's beyond my control. It's not been intentional, and it's not because I've been drinking silly things. I've not purposely picked up a bottle of spirit and
I
just
have
downed it.
loads of times, and I dare say I'm not alone.
And I've been in the presence of people that have as well, and gone, what the hell are you doing? Because in 15 minutes' time, you're going to be on the floor, and we're going to be dealing with someone throwing up all over the place. Never like throwing up, I suppose. So I think with the alcohol, that stops. I mean, literally, I've thrown up 3 times in my life I can think of from alcohol because I don't like throwing up. So I have one of them things that where you just
You're
go,
either doing it right or doing it wrong, man. I don't know which one it
yeah.
is, but
When it comes to something like sticking something in your mouth, whether it's a pill or a mushroom. Once you've done that, there's the only, as I say, there's no way back. Once that's in your system, you're not getting it out your system. You know, even a stomach pump, if it's already going around your system and you're having a bad trip or whatever they call it, you know, it's too late then, isn't it? So I just don't want to ever be in that position.
Well, you mentioned something about before about pills and stuff. That's totally different to the psychedelics and all that. You talk about ecstasy, whiz, and all that, and the thing what goes with the rave scene and the club scene. That's totally.
They're the same to me, Carlos.
But they're different. It's a bit like say they are completely different genres. Totally, I understand what you're saying. They're in that category, but they're completely different. Because you get people who might do hallucinogenic, but they don't do ecstasy, cocaine, or whiz, or weed, or anything like that. So that's a totally different drug. In terms of you're talking about you're unsure about you putting things into your mouth and you're there for the journey. You know that your body makes serotonin, and that they call that like a happy chemical. I think you get it in your liver and your lungs. Your body generates it. I think even the rat creates it even more, and is I can't remember what part of the body. Our body is naturally making it anyway, and obviously where obviously our forefathers were probably experimenting, or they were literally burning some fire one day, and they all had some kind of epiphany, and they thought they had like some kind of god
Well, they reckon the
visited
monkeys
them,
were
or
eating
they have
them,
some
don't
kind
they?
of interact.
So you got to think
Yes,
that
they do.
there's a thought where they reckon the monkeys come out the tree, ate the mushrooms, and got their brains expanded, which is what led to the evolution of the Homo sapiens ultimately. Yeah. So that's one theory, whether it's true or not. Probably, I think it's been poo-pooed by more people than it's accepted by, to be fair. But it's an interesting theory all the same. And if all you had to do was sit in a tree all day and pick your ass, why wouldn't you want to eat some mushrooms?
But it also goes back to the mushrooms. They say mushrooms are not of this world because they've got some
Are they
kind of
not? Wait, are they not
hardened
one of the
ulterior.
original? Are they not one of the original cultivators? They're not one of the first species that were over here. They've got mushrooms that are like, is it 350 million years old and things like that, fossils and stuff. I think mushrooms are one of the first species to mycelium. You know, one of the first species to colonize the land. It's panspermia, where we're seeded. Where ultimately, yeah, to be fair, there's a good chance that while they cultivate the first they cultivate the land here, they probably came from on asteroids, like all the water and everything else is supposed to have come. So
Yeah, because they can
yeah,
deflect ultraviolet light. They can deflect their outer skin can deflect
oh
ultraviolet
yeah,
light,
they're a
which
pretty very tasty as well. I was watching a video recently on that YouTube, that famous site, of this guy that does mushrooms that are like lobster mushrooms. And he was cooking them and he was raving about them, and I so wanted the lobster mushroom. I have
Is it not called a lobster because of the shape, or is it?
no, it's
No, it
called it's
doesn't
red.
taste a lot.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
because it's
tastes the
red, because
lobster.
it's
It
colour.
tastes the lobster. That's what the guy's saying. He made a lobster roll out of it and like a lobster sandwich. And he said, "Oh my god, proper like lobster. I can smell lobster. Tastes like lobster. It feels a little bit like lobster. The texture when you bite it is not lobstery, but the taste and it's still meaty." He was describing it. Check it out. I'll send you a link. It is there's some. So what it is, they grow a lobster, a mushroom, one type of mushroom, and then there's a bacteria that attacks the mushroom, spreads all over the outside of it, turns bright red like a cooked lobster, and actually gives off a fishy, pungent smell, and has a fishy, pungent taste when you taste it, akin to lobster.
All right.
So it sounds really interesting. Google it, kids.
our forefathers must have been experimenting. And obviously, some mushrooms can kill you as well. So I can imagine there's been a few deaths where, yeah, don't eat the black ones, eat the red ones, eat the purple ones, but don't eat X, Y, Z. But also, it goes back to our forefathers, obviously through shamans and oracles and people who can connect with the deities. They also talk about transcending, going through multiverses or wormholes. And there's that famous story where Paul Straitman, I think is Stratman. What's the thing when you study mushrooms? What's it called?
Science, ooh, sciencey bit. Mycology. Yeah.
mycology. So he talks about experimental mushrooms going into sort of seeing the future. Then 2 weeks later, telling his father, we're gonna die, the world's gonna end, such and such a thing." And then he says, "I can see a field of cows drowning." And his father goes, "The message he was getting, it was so vivid," and he documented it. Obviously, a week later, there was massive snow built up. Then the heat melted all the ice. There was mass floods in the area he was living in. And as he managed to rescue all his paperwork, he goes out to his cabin, walks across a field. He sees vast cows drowning across the fields, just floating across it. And he says, "I believed I went through a
Is this
multiverse."
Paul Stamets? Is it?
Stamets, yes. What's your opinion on that, where people have used it to connect
What you've
with?
got to remember about that is what we talked about last time as well. Like, like 2/3 of your memories are made up, and yeah, I mean, I don't doubt it. Well, I don't have any reason to doubt the guy. I've seen a guy tell the story, and he was pretty convinced on the apocalyptic tale. I can't remember how the story went, but vaguely remember what you're saying there. Something he said, and yeah, I mean, he could either misremember it, or this could have genuinely happened, or he could have glimpsed into another parallel universe, as we've discussed on other podcasts. All these things are possible, and I've no reason to doubt any of them.
It could have just been a premonition, though. People have
No,
premonitions
but
all the time.
he wrote it down. He wrote. That's the thing. What makes it adds the story. It gives the story. He wrote it down. He said, "This is what I've seen," and it became true.
You're allowed to write premonitions down, though, Carlos.
But to say, "I'm going to see floating cows across the field, dead cows, as far as the eye could see."
Well, he was probably a farmer or lived on a farm, which was probably a common. I'm not going to say it's a common dream, but it's much easier to believe that he's going to have some thoughts relating to drowning cows more than us city folk are going to have thoughts relating to drowning cows.
Especially when it's in spring and there's been heavy snow and he's in, like you say, it sounds like he's on a farm, or he was on a farm at the time, or he's been around farmland.
No, he's in a lodge. He's in a lodge on his own, a lodge.
So he's surrounded by farmland because there's loads of cows. He might know that farmland has got a history of flooding, especially at that time of year. And what's going to cause it is that when it starts to warm up, the snow's going to melt and you get floods. And he's just had a premonition and he's just wrote it down. Talking of Stamets, I've heard of the name Stamets, but it's from Star Trek Discovery. They named a character called Stamets in Star Trek Discovery.
All right.
That's because of him. It's because of him. It's because of him.
It's because of him, because they develop a new type of. It's not a warp drive, but it's like a jump drive based on spores
Mycelium.
from mycelium spores, and a mycelium network that crosses the entire galaxy, universe or universes. Cool. And
what show is that?
Star Trek Discovery on Netflix.
Is that a new show?
It's been out a couple of years. I believe season 3 is starting soon on Netflix. Still going,
is it? Has it got some famous people in it?
There's a couple of famous people in it. It's Star Trek, but it's been completely rebooted. It's really, even though it's pre all the others, it's really like poppy and fresh. And
is it? It's pre the others,
out.
But they've got some kind of new drive.
Yes, yeah. There's only 2 of the ships, and basically you just got to watch it because, they end up. Anyway, it's I wouldn't call myself a Trekkie. I've watched it, but it was pretty good. But yeah, he basically ends up getting in some container and gets all these spores in him and stuff, and can communicate. And he goes a bit mental to start with and starts seeing things and all sorts of stuff. So they've definitely taken that premise and they said actually on one of the shows, because there's one of these like after show programs that I think it was in the after show program that's why he was called Stamets, because named after this guy Carlos was talking about.
But yeah, Stamets is definitely the surname. Carlos, what do you take it from it then? What is your point? Are you thinking that it's opened up a universe, a glimpse to the future for this guy, and mushrooms have got the potential to do that?
Simply, the answer is going to be yes, and why I'll explain why I've given my
Wait,
answer
so
is
you're
because
saying simply the answer is yes?
no, I'm going to explain. I'm going to say so. The answer is yes. I do think it's opened up different portals because I do think we put blinkers on. It's like our brain is designed to shut down, and it sometimes it goes into sort of like default settings. And I think once you do these psychedelics, it opens up other portals. Some could be good, some could be bad. It depends what kind of person or what kind of consciousness you have. So I do believe that you can connect via other universes, and this is the way to. Because I believe
Other
if we're going to
universes.
be if other universes, because when many years ago when I was a student, I tried the DMT, and it opened up different portals, and I met a replica me. It's sort of like when I say me, it was me, but in a different kind of realm. It was like it looked like me, but it wasn't me. It's like I recognized them, but I didn't know them. I knew them, but I didn't recognize them. And it was like they were giving me information. And the one of the stories they were telling me is like, you know too much. We're going to show you more, and then we'll take it away. So it's like we're going to show you a blackboard, give you more information, and then sort of like erase the memory so you can go back. But it was like interconnect. So I recognized the person. It was sort of me, but not me. And it was giving me messages, telling me things, and it was it was like giving information. And that's the bit where we talked on the last episode where we were going back into consciousness, and then people say, you said we talked about infinite universes, infinite worlds. Why have you got different experiences? It was like we were interlinked, and it was like we were passing messages on to each other, and then it would default, and you go back to your realm.
So can I ask?
It's no. There's one thing. One
Can
thing.
I ask?
I understand.
Can I
No,
ask?
one second. Let me finish it. When it sounds interesting, it sounds out there, but that's the experience I have. So the message was real. It was telling me things. Then it would just retract it and say, it's like this is the message was, you know too much. You slow down. You know too much. And then you show me more. Then he'll take it away. And then I came back. So it's how do I explain that? Was the experience real? Yes, it was real. Did I physically touch it and put it in a bag and take it home with? No, I didn't do that. But the message, the experience was real. I left my body. I left it behind. It's like my body was an ego. It's like my body was breaking away. It was broken. Once my body had broken away, my mind was free. It's like my body was an ego. My mind started wandering, and it's like it became consciousness. Everybody was one. I didn't have a brother or a sister or a mother or a father. Everybody was one. Everyone was one, and that's what made it interesting. And that was the experience I got. Obviously, when I've spoken to many people, a lot of people have different experiences, but this one, and obviously, it's like the messages keep following on each other. It's like every time you do it, it's a different experience. So yeah, that's my experience, and that was many when I was like a student
Hmm.
many years ago.
Interesting. And so, what you learn from that, how have you been able to take that forward into your life in a positive way and use? How has that influenced your life going forward? Then, I take it you got a positive experience from it, a positive message, and enlightened in some way, I guess, which is what they say that you experience. How has that improved your life in any way?
It's improved in terms of we're not alone, and I don't mean aliens are with us. It's like we are part of the universe, but the universe are part of us. More importantly, and I've got a message that you're not alone, and the message was it's like conscious, like you can't lie. When you're in that realm, you can't lie. It's just it's like you talk to each other telepathically, so you can't lie. So it's you have to be part of it. And also, I got the feeling that you have to do better. You have to become a better person. I'm not saying nobody's perfect. I'm not saying that. It's like I got the message I was getting is improve, do what you have to do, but be better, become more benevolent. Not the message was you must be a good Catholic boy. No, that wasn't the message. It's like learn, but be positive. try and do the right thing. It was like how do I explain it? Like, you know, you get your yin and yang, you got your dark and you get your negative energy. So you got your good and your bad energy. That's the feeling I got. There was moments where I got a dark feeling, and it was just like a taste of things to just be careful. And I was sort of like pulling back. I was pulling back, and it allowed me to pull back. It's like, don't go down that tunnel. It's like it was there, and it was like guiding me. It says, oh, do you want? And I said, no, I don't want to go, don't want to go. And he just pulled me back, and he showed me the realms of the universe. It's like the universe was, it was like mechanical. It was like a structure. I'm not going to say man-made. I'm not going to say it was mechanical, but it was like a simulated. Maybe the word simulation I'm trying to. It's like a simulation. The way the cogs were working, I could see it. And it's like, this is how it works, and this is how you get complex lives, and this is who we are. But we're all interlinked. And I didn't get a feeling of a creator like a god, but I got a feeling of a creator. Like the guy who created your laptop is not a god, but he created the laptop. Does that make sense? And I got a feeling of a creator, but not a god complex, not a god, if that makes sense.
I wish you'd stopped talking enough long enough for us to actually tell you whether we thought it made sense or not. You've literally just been talking non-stop for 5 minutes, Carlos.
No, but it's a question. It's a very good question that Nick asked, and it wasn't. It's one of them you can't answer it yes or no. That's why when Nick asked you before, have you ever done it? You said no. And it's like, and that's why once you've done it, it's not like having a cigarette in the park or having a neck of vodka. This experience is, you're going into different realms, into different, and it changes people. Before, is that old saying, the only thing certain in life is death and taxes. I honestly believe a lot of people are probably scared of death. If a lot of people probably experience this and tried this, they'll see there's another journey after we leave this realm. I believe there's another journey. I don't believe you worm food. I believe there's another journey.
Well, right, I've got a lot of things to say because I've not been able to get a word in edgeways for the past like 10 minutes. So,
It was a good question, Nick. Wait, just go back to what Nick.
for
Nick,
fuck's sake,
you
you're
said
talking again.
no. But Nick asked me a question, and did I answer it there, though, Nick?
I got lost in your response, mate. And I forgot what
Exactly.
the question was. So
Exactly.
I asked if it had benefited your life in it, and if you'd used the information to improve yourself or whatever it was. Wasn't it?
Yes, the answer was yes. Yeah.
As you were on that rant, then I made a note of 3 things I wanted to mention, but right at the very end, you started going on about it's felt very much like personal beliefs. Do you not think that all the different people that take it have all different personal beliefs? Not everyone's going to have the same experience that you've had, Carlos.
Correct, because I've spoken to several people, and they've all had different. No one's had the same experience. Completely different.
Okay,
Completely different.
so you've experienced this truth of this other reality. It sounds like, um, this answer to this universe. You've experienced this truth, but other people that either doing the same drug or similar drugs, whatever, they're going to have completely separate experiences. So your truth isn't a truth. Does that make sense?
It is, because it's an experience like the if us three went out on a night out and all our friends asked us what did you do, the three of us will have different versions, but none of us are lying. But it's our interpretation of what we experienced.
I think what they say is the experiences are similar, but obviously the personal details are personal. It's obviously the whole thing is a subject of your imagination. Ultimately it's all happening inside your own very personal space, tiny little amygdala.
Exactly. So it can't be the same experience, then, can it? It cannot be the
Not
same
the details are
experience.
not. No, the details are not. And nobody says they are, but the general experience is the sparkly, the colours and the sounds and all the rest of it. Most people experience those things. But obviously, if you've got something talking to you, and if see your old dog from when you were a kid or whatever, then that's there's not many other people are not going to share that experience just because you're all on mushrooms or other psychedelic together.
Okay. Right. Anyway, let me go back to some of the things I made a note of as Carlos was ranting.
It wasn't run. It was answering the question.
Download.
It was a download. Yeah, it was a download. It was before and after Nick's question, and so 3 things I made a note of. Number 1, lucid dreaming. Don't know if you've heard of that, but it's a
Yeah.
way of getting an out of body experience. No psychedelics or drugs involved. It's literally techniques that you do before going to sleep. I read a book on this. Oh gosh, 20 plus years ago, and I gave it a shot a couple of nights. I practiced the techniques. I had some really weird dreams off the back of it, where I dreamt that I'd left my body, but it was just a dream. Number 2 was abduction experiences. You hear a lot of abduction encounters that sound very similar to what you were describing about leaving your body and going and seeing and getting messages and then having that message wiped and blah blah blah. And the last one was one of my own personal experiences. Last time I was in Amsterdam with Nick and some other friends, we were in a coffee shop, and I definitely had too much of a big drag on something, and I just sat there. My brain just didn't stop thinking all the time, and Nick and my pal just carried on chatting, blah blah blah, and my gob was shut, and I was just dealing with uh being high, I suppose,
Yeah.
and I was trying to, yeah, and I was trying to explain it. I was trying to figure out in my head, how am I going to explain to Nick what this felt like. Not that not that I'm sure Nick knows, but and I was coming up with all sorts of weird time travel type scenario experiences. And anyway, after about 15 minutes, I opened my gob again, and I didn't even bother explaining anything. but
I don't remember that story, man. Did you tell us that at the time?
No, do you not remember when I said when I just went I think we'd started walking back, and I just went, I'm going to say something now. It's been a while since I've said something. Do you not remember me saying that in the middle of the
Oh
street?
man, yeah, vaguely. I think I
Yeah,
probably responded with, "It's probably the first time you've ever been fucking properly stoned, you fucker."
probably. I don't know.
Probably.
I don't think you said out. You and
Yeah, I'm
our
sure we had a
mutual
good laugh at
friend.
your expense.
Yeah, you were too busy chatting about something else as we were walking the
Oh,
streets.
really?
But yeah, I just for like 10, 15 minutes there, I was just locked in my own mind. I could have spoke at any time I wanted, but I was just like, just didn't
You're on
want
your
to open my
journey.
mouth. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, yeah.
happy times. Yeah, it's a good place to be.
But mine was in a controlled environment, so it was the journey. I was helped during the journey. It's journey, I should say, and the experience probably only lasted, say, between 5 to 10 minutes, if that. But it felt hours. I was gone, hours. And there was the thing. What freaked me out is this happened obviously about 20 odd years ago, where it was um, the person I seen, who was sort of like, it looked like me, but I recognized him but didn't know him, and so forth. Then the about 2 days later, I'm walking down the street, and 2 people walk out of an alleyway. Two, I'm going to say Korean people, a lady and a gentleman under an umbrella, and they come up to her as they usually do, and they just say, "Can we talk to you?" And I'm like, oh. And because they asked really nice and polite, I go, "Yeah, okay, you can talk to me." And they said, and the gentleman brings out like some kind of book, some kind of Bible. It's a different type of Bible, but I've never seen it with. It just looked different. And the first page it says, "Do you know there's many gods?" I went, "No, I thought there was just one God, one creator." He goes, "No, no, everybody has a mother God. She is the mirror image of you." I know that sounds daft, and but that's it. Started thinking the experience I had with that happening 2, 3 days later. It was like it was all interconnected, and that's when I started thinking maybe we did cross over. Maybe we did. There was some kind of connection, because I do believe it's like in this room, in your room now. If you started playing with the radio at AM and FM, you're going to get music. It is frequency in your room, in your house. That's the same with these dimensions. It's just we're just people just they can't tap into it because we're all literally blinkered. And if you open these portals, you can open up. And like Nick asked the question before, has it changed you? Yes, it's probably the best experience I've ever had. It's just it. I knew after that there's more to life than just this. But I do believe you need how do I put it? You need to do something. You need to be a good person in this life because I do think you may pay for it in a different realm. And I don't know how to explain it. I don't mean through reincarnation. I'm not saying that. I do believe you have to be if you're evil, a nasty person, a malevolent person. I do think you'll suffer for it in the next realm, and
Let's
that's
hope
the
so, mate.
feeling I got.
I think we would be lucky if that was the case. That the evil in this life suffer in the next. I think
Do you
that
not
would be
think so?
nice. That would be a nice. I would like to think that's the case. I'd like to think that there's karma and people get their comeuppance and another. I just don't know. I just don't know. I do like to think that there's more to it, and I do like the idea that the whole universe is connected and somehow. And yeah, I am aware that when you're having those experiences, you can feel like that. So yeah, it's hard to say. I think more people need to have the experiences, and then we'll have more data. I think and we'll do away with the woo-woo that suppressed the research for the last 50 years.
Well, there was that famous study done by the MK Ultra midnights. If you Google it, it's a midnight. I don't know. I can't remember. It's midnight something. They were dosing guys who were going to brothels or whorehouses, and the madams or the prostitutes or hookers would leave the room. They would dose the room with hallucinogenics and just see what reactions the guys were doing and what was happening. Because that's when they realized people were getting different experience. Some people were completely enjoying the experience. Some people were freaking out.
So what you're saying,
Some
they
people
spiked people that went to brothels?
Yes, that's it. Midnight climax. So they dosed the guys. I read about this many years ago when I was a kid in school, and they dosed the guys with LSD, and to see what reactions. These guys were having different experiences. Some were freaking out. Some were really enjoying it. There was rumors that some of them actually took their own lives, threw themselves out the window. But it goes back to the experience. What Andy said before. Andy was saying everybody has different experiences. Correct. Everybody has different experiences.
If somebody was to spike you with LSD, I think you would but most people would freak out if that just come upon them. If
Yes.
if that level of
Yeah, if they didn't know it was coming,
disassociative, yeah, that would freak out anybody, I think. Well, if you're prepared for it and expecting it, then it's bound to be a different thing. But yeah, I mean, and that's see, you're going all the way back to the 60s. Yeah, they are researching it now, so they are like places like Princeton, I think, have got labs
No, but
researching.
that's how it started. That's how it started.
Yeah, well, it's one branch of it. I don't know if it started, but yeah, they tried to manipulate it for sure. But I'm sure there was. I mean, the LSD thing started with the guy, was the bicycle day guy? Was it April the 4th or something? I can't remember. The Swiss chemist. He did the LSD in the 1940s. He invented it or something like that, 1949, and then it was just sat there and did nothing until the 60s, until some other people started researching with it, and then it got picked up started getting abused by the students, and then it gained in popularity, and then it got suppressed by the government, and then it was vilified for the last 50 years. That's its kind of journey. As far as mushrooms are concerned, I think in the 60s, some journalist from Time magazine went down to Mexico somewhere and brought back samples and tales of his time down there, and then that kicked off the awareness in the Western world. So really, we've only really been aware of them consciously for the last 50 years.
in the Western world.
Yeah, in the Western world, and suppressed for the best part. So discovered in early, late 40s, suppressed and reignited in the 60s, and then suppressed in the 60s until now, until like the 2010s or something. The last 5 or 10 years, I think they've been studying it more at American universities and British universities. I think maybe the ILC, the London College, ICL, I can't remember which it is. uh, Imperial College London, I think they're doing some research into it now, and have been last year and stuff. So it is gaining, and I think they're using it now for depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. They're treating conditions like that with them, and they're having great results. I think that as well, things like smoking, they're treating people that want to give up smoking with it, and they're having almost 100% success rate. In a lot of cases, it's only even one treatment. That's all people have. That's all they need. One treatment of this to make the difference, to make them stop smoking, something they've been trying to do their whole life. So there's obviously some merit in it, and a lot more work needs to be done to the pros and cons of it. And a lot less fear, I think. That would be a step forward in the right direction.
Just to rewind a little bit, just my brain here thinking about the foundation, the structure is the same. I'm probably thinking that there is some truth in that, because obviously what these people are doing is they're all taking, whether it's LSD or DMT or whatever other names you have for it, they take that drug, and then that's a chemical, and that affects your brain, which is also just a chemical engine, and there's things firing back and forth and blah blah blah. So it's going to affect certain types of the brain in the same way. So something unrelated to drugs where you get a similar effect that I can think of is all these people that have these tunnel vision experiences, near death experiences. They all have a lot of similar experiences, and the sort of science behind that is because it's called near death because they're literally they're dead for a few seconds, few minutes, whatever, before they revived, and the body started shutting down. So your brain starts shutting down in certain orders, and that experience is why you get this. Oh, I'm seeing this light at the end of the tunnel, and I see myself floating up and black. So a lot of brains, again, if you go back to the last episode where we talk about collective memories, and rememberings, and things triggering in your brain, and if they trigger in my brain the same as they do in yours, Carlos, we're bound to have a very similar experience, with that flavored with our own unique life experiences, because our lives are both completely different. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
No, it makes totally sense, and that because everybody has when they die, they always have I can see the tunnel, I followed the tunnel, and I got through it. So maybe that's because people have read so many stories, and that's the sort of the structure to the story. But I go back to my experience. I've spoken to other people many years ago, and they were saying that the colors, the structure, the mechanics were all there, but the message and the journey is different. So yeah, what you're saying is correct. It's probably there's a structure, there's a process, but then what happens during that is, as Nick mentioned before, what kind of mindset you're in that day, what kind of person you are. Maybe I probably wouldn't recommend it if you've had a really bad day and you're in a bad place. I probably wouldn't recommend it, but I do recommend. Sorry, I do. What I would say is it does give you. There is a structure to it. There is a message. Excuse me. There is a message, and then it's going to be. It's just what message you get from it. Nick asked me a good question. Says, has it changed you? Yes, it's changed me. I think differently now. I completely think different. It's completely changed my process and what I see and what I know and what I thought I knew. So to simplify it, I thought I knew a lot, but I know fuck all, if that makes sense.
Okay, so randomly, I'm just going to throw somebody's name at you. Philip K. Dick. Either of you heard of Philip K. Dick?
No.
No, he's got a
What's
funny
Phil's
name.
story?
He's got a
Yeah, he's got a
Phil
funny
story.
name.
So you probably have heard of him. You just don't realise. So Channel 4 did a series of like one-off programs. They were all based on Philip K. Dick's stories. He's wrote like hundreds of short science fiction stories. But a lot of them all have something very similar in common with each other. They're all like a take on either just a slightly different reality from our own, or some are slightly, some are proposed futures, and probably not futures that our
So kind
planet's
of
going to
Black
go
Mirror
in.
stuff.
Exactly, that's a good way. Yeah, they're very, very Black Mirror-y, very one-off little things. There was a show on, I think it was on Channel 4 a couple of years ago. It was brilliant because I love sci-fi. Anyway, going back to his story, I think if you stick him in YouTube or Google him, you can find a video of him talking about it. But he basically had, in his younger days, had this experience through psychedelics where he thought he was in a different realm of existence, basically, and he came back, and so basically said, "This is like all my stories are from this experience." He's not saying he experienced them, but he's like just picturing different. In his mind now, he's just coming up. Oh well, what if there was a universe where this happened and that happened, and
Rain donuts, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
another callback to a previous episode. That episode we did on The Simpsons, yeah. So anyway, I thought I'd throw Philip K. Dick in there. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
well, literature is littered with authors that have experimented with psychedelics. Look at things like The Hobbit and James and Giant Peach, Roald Dahl. They're all rumored to. I don't know whether true or not. People like that are rumored to have experimented with psychedelics and got much of their inspiration from their experiences while taking those things. For me, there needs to be less fear, more experimentation. But then I'm pretty liberal in a lot of things like that. I think, for me, I would side with the South American governments, the ones that want to legalize drugs across the world and have them. I think if we legalize them, I should have said this in another podcast before as well. If we legalize them and controlled them, we could, stop kids dying from them, and we could control the price of it, and we could stop people mugging grannies for a £5 bag of whatever.
Stick around for some bloopers and sound bites taken out of context that didn't make the edit for this episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Was it Boris Johnson said he did a cocaine, but he put it near his nose, but he didn't inhale it.
Happy days. We don't want your piss stream in our fucking stream.
What? Find out what your real agenda is. Carlos.
Oh, yeah, my transgender.
I don't think he's muted. I don't see a cross on his fucking mic, and I can still hear him thumping away.
Are you going to ask him for the address of these brothels?
Yeah, that's it. From an orderly queue.